Good morning, everybody. Not good morning, bad morning, awful morning, whatever it is. No sleep morning. No sleep, get yourself to the gym and punish yourself morning because you can't deal with Leeds morning. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. I certainly wasn't laughing last night. I wasn't ranting and raving. I was just in, not even disbelief. I was just sat there numb, really. I was just like watching it and just sort of, the Chelsea loss actually hurt because we were in the game and we played so well. This just seemed like a beat down, a real severe, awful, horrendous beat down. If you don't know what I'm referring to, obviously Leeds United have we witnessed Leeds United's biggest ever defeat last night in our club's history, 7-0 to the hands of Manchester City. It's Bielsa's biggest loss in his managerial career, and it was absolutely horrendous from moment one. Look, it's City. We understand it's Manchester City. You look at the calibre of squad that they put out last night. De Bruyne, Bernardo, Grealish, Foden. I understand that. Of course I do. But even Marcelo Bielsa has said afterwards that is no excuse. Our performance was way below our standard, and it's the worst performance he's seen whilst been at Leeds in 4 years. So if you're going to get people coming on here and saying, well, it's City, making excuse after excuse, you've even got Bielsa coming out afterwards and saying that was Leeds United's worst performance. The basics were abhorrent. They were abysmal. They were out of order in some aspects because you've got a plan of playing against Manchester City. You have to execute that plan to a 10 out of 10. You didn't even execute it to a 4 out of 10. I don't think that's acceptable as a football team, as a football player. Yourself, your own personal standards. I always talk about standards on this channel. People seem to think I'm always criticising the players, but I will criticise where criticism's due. A lot of people on this platform won't do that for views. I will do that. So it hurt, and it's hurt more this morning. There's more of a realisation this morning of what happened, to be honest with you, and the position that Leeds United are in, and what the realism is at this moment in time. So, yeah, when the manager's coming out and saying that, he looked dejected. It was the first time I've ever seen him stay out on the sideline. He was on the touchline just waiting for his players to go in. Normally Bielsa's straight down the tunnel after shaking the manager's hand. I was a little bit worried at that point, to be honest. He seemed despondent and dejected, like all of the fans who were watching at home. I'd like to say the Ellen Road crowd were unbelievable. The might as well have been Ellen Road. The crowd at Manchester City Stadium was unbelievable. The home crowd. Sorry for a Manchester City fan, but when you're winning 7-0 and you're not even getting behind your team, you're not even singing. I can't imagine what Ellen Road would have been like if Leeds were winning the game 7-0 or even 3-0. That's what you call an atmosphere. They couldn't even fill the ground. It was poor. So thank God for Leeds fans at least making noise there. But it's wonderful. But we know Leeds have wonderful fans and all this sort of stuff. But we want to start doing more things on the pitch. It's great off the pitch in terms of the fans because the fans are amazing. They always have been. But yeah, the last video I did, the preview, I was optimistic by what I'd seen. I was buoyed, as I kept saying in the video. And it was looking back on it in reflection now, the trust and faith I had in the side to at least uphold their own personal standards, I was completely wrong, really completely wrong. And in my head, I knew it was going to be more than 2-1, of course I did, but I wanted to come on and sound optimistic and give a little bit of a rallying call to the boys after that performance at the weekend. But like everything this season, it's been so inconsistent, and we're going to still hear the same things. It was City. You're right. You're 100% right. It wasn't long ago before, this City side was slapping 6 past Chelsea, slapped 5 past Burnley normally every single season. But I think it's the fact that could have been 15, 16 again. And we've had that with Liverpool so far. We've had that with Man United so far, and we don't seem to learn. I felt he got his lineup completely wrong again. I said what lineup I wanted in the preview. You guys seem to agree with what I was saying. I'd have loved to have seen Cresswell at centre-back. I'm not saying it would have been any better, but I think Luke Ayling would have dealt with Jack Grealish a lot better than Jamie Shackleton did in the first 10-15 minutes, and that was what I was alluding to in my preview. I think Jamie Shackleton was always going to struggle with Jack Grealish cutting inside, or whoever was coming off that side, maybe Riyad Mahrez or whoever. And he did. It was Jack Grealish was running him down in that first half. And like we constantly say, or like I constantly say, Jamie Shackleton's not a right back. He's a central midfielder. Once again, square pegs, round holes when it doesn't, it's not necessary. It's not necessary to do so, but square pegs round holes again. I will sort of put the blame at the manager there, because he doesn't need to do that. Charlie Cresswell's more than competent, in my personal opinion, from what I've seen. I'm a fan, I'm a paying customer, I can have my opinion. From what I've seen with Charlie Cresswell, he's more than good enough, and Luke Ayling is a natural right back who I think would have been able to deal competently with Jack Grealish. Once again, I don't know what to say about Joe Gelhardt. Joe Gelhardt, we'll get into him, but he comes off the bench. I feel so sorry for Dan James. We bought a £30 million winger in who never plays on the wing. We've bought a £30 million striker in Rodrigo in who never plays up front. And we're going to get onto the recruitment in a little bit, but I just want to touch on the recruitment before I get into the lineup. I think with the style of squad, the size and the depth of squad that we have, recruitment has to be 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. We can't get certain players wrong, and I think we have got certain players wrong in the transfer market. I think, overall you might state the recruitment as maybe 6.5 out of 10 overall, and I think with the size of squad that we have, it's got to be 9, 10 out of 10, because every player that comes in has to do well. We don't have 2 or 3 players luxury in every single position, even though the manager says that he thinks we do. We don't have 2 players in every position. We just move certain individuals round, and that quantifies as the second player in that particular position. But I just thought I'd touch on recruitment slightly there, because we're going to go into the lineup. Joe Gelhardt not starting was incredible for me, but I expected it. Feel sorry for Dan James, was chasing shadows in the first half, but we saw Gelhardt come on in the second half. Leeds were playing long. And Gelhardt was able to hold it up, link the midfield with the attack, and his silky touches were winners free kicks, and he was a little bit of a target man, and that's what we said. He's unpredictable. They're not expecting him to start. The manager doesn't do that. He sticks with Dan James, and like we've seen all season, Dan James up front doesn't work. Dan James out wide works, but Dan James up front doesn't work. No Lewis Bate in the squad again. Jack Jenkins now seems to be ahead of him. I don't know where that's turned, but it clearly has. I don't understand that at all. I think, once again, Lewis Bate coming off the bench instead of Matthias Klick would have been my preference in that game, because I think Lewis Bate is a technical player who is going to apply his trade in the Premier League in the future. I don't think Matthias Klick is a Premier League footballer. I've said it multiple times on here. I'm not abusing the guy. I'm talking about his ability on the pitch. I don't think he's good enough, personally. So, yeah, I didn't really understand the lineup and the game plan. As I've just said, we're playing direct to Dan James. We cannot handle teams who play a high press. Leeds United have never been able to handle that. We couldn't handle that in the Championship. We can't handle that in the Premier League. I don't understand why more teams don't do it to us. But a lot of people will turn around once again and say, well, that's City. So, granted, yeah, it is Manchester City, right? But what about Southampton when the press is into Bolivian? What about Brentford when they push 5 yards up in the second half and pressed us? What about Burnley for 75, 80 minutes of that game when they were pressing the life out of us at Turf Moor and we couldn't deal with it? This is not just Manchester City. This is not just Man United and Liverpool. These are teams in and around us that are pressing the life out of us, that are getting the better of us by doing so. And what do we do when we're pressed into oblivion? We go long. And what's the option when we've gone long? It's Dan James. I don't get the game plan. What's the plan? What is the plan? We're trying to play through a team who are the best in the world at playing through oppositions, the best in the world at pressing. They run more than any other opposition. They have better quality players, and they can run as much, if not more, than Leeds. So why are we trying to play football against them? You've got the blueprint at the weekend with Wolves. You've got the blueprint last year against Manchester City when we went down to 10 men, and we were stable, we were compact, we were defensive. I'll be honest, we're trying to shithouse the game. We're trying to shithouse the game with 10 men. And that's exactly what we should have done against Man United at the start of the season. It's exactly what we should have done against Liverpool. It's exactly what we should have done against Manchester City. I'm not saying we would have got anything out of those games, but you're giving yourself a chance. You're giving yourself a chance. Going into these games and playing a man-marking system against the best players in world football and expecting it to work, it's so naive. And it makes no sense. No sense. A lot of people might heart to Chelsea. Well, Connor, it did. Chelsea were appalling at the weekend. They were so bad. I've spoken to numerous Chelsea fans who said they were absolutely abhorrent at the weekend. Leeds were very good. We were in the game. You've got to credit Leeds United. You have. But Chelsea were nowhere near to the standards that they normally set. Nowhere near. Leeds did so well, and we should have got something from that game, as the caveat in there. but they're not on the same level as this lot. But the game plan is the same. The game plan is the same for Burnley at home as it is to Manchester City away. And we've seen how it works last season. When we're pragmatic, when we adapt in games, when we can manage games, when we sit in defensively, when we're dogged, we've seen it work. And the goals, you know, we talk about personal standards. The goals were pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. The first goal was a circus act. How's that gone in the back of the net? You know, you sat there almost laughing at that. The first goal. You know, Dallas tries to clear it off the line. His feet get mixed up. It should nowhere near go in. Dallas like sort of kicks his own foot, goes in. Once again, another awful goal Leeds have conceded. The second goal, Jack Grealish is winning a header. There's no marking in the box. So you're down 2-0 in about 11 minutes, and they're both, once again, shocking goals to concede. Leeds should not be getting beaten with the ball being floated into the box and Jack Grealish winning a header. No marking in the box. There was a man behind him who could have nodded it in as well. And as I say, the first goal, it was kamikaze. Absolute kamikaze. Llorente getting lost in outer space like he was in that entire game, and like he has been recently, to be honest with you. Meslier, he sort of tries to smother the ball, but it hits his knee, comes back out to Foden. Foden scuffs it, and Dallas can't clear it off the line. Kevin De Bruyne goal, unbelievable finish, world class as he is. He was brilliant throughout the game, but he's in 15 yards of space to himself. We're talking about a man marking system. Where's the man marking? Said it on the last video. We've got a man marking system where we don't man mark. You know, and why deploy a man marking system against Manchester City? But it's going to be the exact same against Liverpool. Exact same. And I'm not discounting Arsenal there, but I think I'm saying Arsenal's going to be potentially one we could win. With the amount of squad depth we've got at the minute, I don't think that's realistic, but it's 1 out of the 4 that we could win. Liverpool, we don't adapt game plans. The game plan is never different. So why would I be positive going into that game? Why would I not expect a 7-8-0 in that game? It's very difficult when I don't see anything changing in terms of adapting a game plan to a world-class opponent. Like we saw Wolves do at the weekend to Manchester City, and they nearly nicked a draw. You get one attack, you get 1 or 2 attacks, and that's it. You've got to make the most of it. But that's just life. It's life against top teams. The other goal as well, Nathan Ake. Header, Rafinha's on the line, tries to head it clear, completely misses it. I thought Rafinha had a shocker last night. I thought, listen, I'm talking about his personal standards again. I think he got the ball 4 or 5 times in the first half, gave the ball away every single time, which you can't rely on with Manchester City because they'll just pick you apart. Not being safe with the ball, not being clever with the ball, and that, the thing on the line at the end where he's just got to head it clear simply. It goes past him. The John Stones goal is... John Stones had 3 bites of the cherry. Where's the closing down? Hits one, Meslier saves, hits another blocked. Why is he getting a 3rd attempt on goal? 3rd attempt goes in, 6-0. The defending was abysmal, and we all, Man City know it was our personal standards as well. They were very, very good, and you've got to give credit to them, but it was embarrassing from Leeds from a personal standards point of view. I said as well, we're playing this long ball system to Dan James, and as I always say, listen, the second balls are absolutely key. I'd love to see that in our game. If Joffrey went up front, winning the second balls off Joffrey's going to be able to hold the ball up a little bit more, get the players in and around him. But what we're doing in this game is we're playing the ball long to Dan James. We're working on the second balls. We're trying to win the second balls. But then in the 4-1-4-1 system, you've got Dan James there, and you've got 4 Leeds players pushing up with Dan James and not winning the second ball. Never winning the second ball, which essentially means you've got 5 players completely out of the game, and you've got Adam Forshaw in a back 4 against Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, Mahrez, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, all the band. At least get someone up there who's going to be able to hold the ball and isn't 4'6". So Forshaw was completely overrun, completely exposed, and nothing changed. We continued with it. Rafinha didn't come off the pitch. We're 6-0 down, and we're almost waiting for Rafinha to either get an injury, which is just the Leeds DNA at the minute, or to get another yellow card and be suspended for the Arsenal game. Why is he not taking him off? Take him off, put Somerville on, who now seems to have fallen out of favour for whatever reason. I just think sometimes the game management is completely out the window. I think it's just plan A, and like Bielsa said before, plan A better, but plan A better is not going to work. You know, sometimes there does need to be a plan B, a completely separate plan, in my opinion. I think KP was massively missed. I think we've seen with KP when he's been up against Kevin De Bruyne, he's had a really good battle in there. We've seen it with Phillips and Bruno Fernandes, even though in the last game, the 5-1, Bruno was brilliant. But, you know, Calvin loves those sort of battles, and we're going to get onto January in a little bit, but I thought kudos to Tyler Roberts, who I think's been phenomenal these last 3 or 4 weeks. He's completely changed a lot of Leeds fans, including myself's opinion on him. He's technically the best player alongside Rafinha at the minute, and Gelhardt, which says a lot because Gelhardt's had about 30 minutes. But Roberts has been brilliant, and he was good last night. He was Leeds' best player for me. Kept hold of the ball, was barely giving it away, was looking for attacking opportunities, was trying to help out at the back as well. I thought Roberts was fine. I thought he was really good in terms of his own standards, and I thought him... I mentioned Rafinha being technically the best player, but that doesn't... What I mean by that is, I mean, like, you know, on the ball at the minute, how economical he is on the ball. But I thought Roberts was the best player. Ayling was all right, but I can't really give it Ayling anything more than sort of a 6 out of 10 when, or a 5 out of 10 when you conceded 7 goals in a back line, but you shouldn't be playing at centre back, and that's not his fault. Jack Harrison, I don't know how much more leeway we're going to give to him. Leeds fans have the favourites, and Jack Harrison's definitely up there because he's got 8 goals and 8 assists when we didn't have a crowd, when we didn't have any crowds there, and we finished 9th. So he's got credit in the bank. So Leeds fans don't ever seem to call Jack Harrison out. I'll say whatever on Jack Harrison in terms of his football on the pitch. Nothing about him off the pitch. He seems like a lovely, lovely guy. But his football on the pitch has always been questionable for me, always. I think his decision-making's appalling. I think any single time he gets in a good position, he goes like this. You'll see it with Jack Harrison. You'll see it with Jack Harrison. He does this all the time. When he screws something up. All the time. Gets into the box, does the Jack Harrison little shimmy like that when he doesn't know what he's doing, gets himself into that position, sit it with your right foot, Jack, or pass the ball, gets it and completely... naturally mucks up the attack quite often. The one time he actually did something effective in the game was when he got the ball out of his feet and whipped the ball in, and Tyler Roberts nearly got a head on it, came out Dallas at the post. That's what he needs to do. He doesn't seem to understand the basic premise of a winger. Take your full back on and whip the ball in, get it out of your feet. You don't need 40 touches and try dribble past everybody. You know, he's making a living at the minute on his first touch. But you're not a Premier League footballer if all you can do is whack the ball down, you know, get the ball down and trap it with your first touch and have a highlight reel put on Twitter. It's not enough. It's not enough. And he's one of the senior players now in this side. He's been indoctrinated into this Bielsa system. He's shown him faith, and he needs to do more. Look at Tyler Roberts, for an example, who's got absolutely slammed at the minute, you know, in the past 2 or 3 years by Leeds fans, including myself, and he's really coming to the fore now. Stuart Dallas, who's always there and thereabouts, thought he was poor last night, but he's always there and thereabouts. He's been in the system now, he understands the system, plays extremely well for Marcelo Bielsa. Jack Harrison, he's just nowhere near consistent. He's never been consistent. He's a pure confidence player, and at the minute his confidence is on the floor. Needs to be taken out. Shouldn't have started last night. Shouldn't be starting at all. It should be Dan James on the left, and it should be Joe Gelhardt up front. You know, if you're that bothered about Joe Gelhardt not being up front, then stick Roberts up there and Click in the middle. Although I don't really want to see Click in there at the minute. But Jack Harrison is nowhere near. Should not be starting in the Premier League for Leeds United. You know, at all. And Llorente's fallen into there at the minute, but the depth is also a problem. Now, I'm hearing a lot of these games don't define us, and I understand that. But Brentford, those games define us when we're 1-0 up and we throw it away. Burnley away, where we dominated for 80 minutes of the game. These games define us. Southampton away, when we dominated for the full 90 minutes. Newcastle away, when we dominated for 45 and just get a draw out of the game. So we can put these positives on Twitter for likes and retweets of, you know, these games won't define us, all this sort of stuff. The games coming up won't define us, but it's the knock-on effect. It's the fact that Leeds United could finish the calendar year on 16 points. Double that, that's 32 points. That's relegation. So unless this second half of the season drastically improves, Leeds United are going down without a whimper. So I should say with a whimper. Unless we do something in January, which we're going to get onto. But you look at the maths, you look at the quantitative aspects of what's going on at Leeds at the minute. You double the tally, which is likely to be at the end of this year, which would be 16 points, max probably 17 points. You double that at the end of the season, you're down. So there needs to be some drastic improvements from the manager. There needs to be stuff from the owner in terms of investment. And there needs to be a manipulation on a game plan. There needs to be adaptation, because at the minute it's just not good enough. The games that we should be winning this year, we're not winning. We've won 3 games in 17, and you're still getting people saying we're not in a relegation battle, and they can guarantee you Leeds aren't going down. Based on what? What logic? That we've got better players to come back. They never fit. We get one player back, we'll get another player out in a critical position, which all reverts back to squad depth and doing stuff in the summer, which we didn't, which we screwed up, and doing stuff in January, which we have to do, or we'll screw it up. Bielsa afterwards came out and essentially, as I've said to you guys, said it was the worst performance ever. He also said that, the same thing about the January transfer window. He feels like the players are sufficient, all this sort of stuff, which hopefully he's just saying that to, put the board on aware, of what he wants to do and all this sort of stuff. But that had to be a shake-up to Radrizzani in that last night. I feel like at the minute they've been sort of coasting and feeling like they can get away with it this season. I think they thought that in the summer. It was a bit of a naive window, to be honest with you. But they just simply have to do something. They have to do something in January. I'm also worried by the confidence of the squad, because I think we have a lot of players, a lot of young players, a lot of confidence-based players. Jack Harrison, Tyler Roberts, Daniel James, Pat Bamford, even when he's in the side. A lot of confidence players who've never been in this position before. We cannot get into, we cannot finish this run of 4 that we've had, get into the Liverpool game and then go into Villa, and I don't know what the confidence is going to be like. Are we going to go into Villa and Burnley with more injuries, more suspensions, and the confidence is going to be rock bottom? I hope not. I know this team's always going to give it their all. I know that for a fact. But I'm worried about the confidence levels of the side after these 4 games, because I think they're going to be on the floor. And just the bench, it's an embarrassment, isn't it? It's a pure embarrassment. I mean, we said it at the weekend. 8 first teamers out now. 3 still on yellow card suspensions, or on the verge of yellow card suspension. Roberts, who's one of our best players at the minute. Rafinha, obviously the standout. And Diego Llorente. So 3 on 4 yellow cards. Firpo last night, who is so indisciplined, it's unbelievable. Once again, he could have got sent off last night by the amount he grabs hold of his opposition man. So he's out. So we're going to have to do the square pegs in round holes thing against Arsenal. I would presume that Click's going to come into central midfield. Dallas is going to go left back. But I was looking at the Championship. Obviously, Shackleton went off injured as well. But I was looking at the Championship, and one of the lowest points for me, everyone reverts to Forest and all this sort of stuff. But I remember when we lost 2-1 away at Stoke, and the threadbare nature of the squad that day was unbelievable. Leeds had barely anyone in the side. It was better than we have at the minute in terms of experience. Let me just read that bench out to you. Leif Davis, Jamie Shackleton, Kiko Casilla, Tyler Roberts, Click, Halmer. In comparison to last night. And on the pitch that day we had the likes of Kim Roof, Pablo Hernandez, Pontus Jansson. It was a strong starting 11, but the bench was appalling. I remember Leeds fans were really upset about it. But last night, it's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse and worse, the squad depth. We'll get 1 player back, 2 will go out. We're averaging 4 injuries a game under Marcelo Bielsa in 4 years. So it's not going to improve. So what I'm trying to say is the depth has to improve. If we don't do stuff in January, we're teetering on the relegation zone. And I'm going to get into why in a little bit. I've said before as well to you guys that us going down, there's a lot of people who say Leeds won't go down. Leeds won't go down. And I ask them why. Well, because it's Leeds, isn't it? What does that mean? Oh, it's because we've got quality. Well, the quality's never there. We never have a cohesive amount of players within the side. We might have Rafinha in, but then Rafinha will go out and be injured. Then Calvin will come in for 2-3 months. But then you have Llorente out, and then you have Strauch out, and it's never consistent. And there's no chance, for me, we're going on a run like we did at the back end of last season, from what I'm seeing at the minute. No chance. But Leeds have to do something in January to assess that. Now, let me just speak on the teams in and around us. So Watford, what do they have on the bench? Well, recently, they had João, who absolutely, João Pedro, I believe it is, who absolutely ripped it up in the Championship last season. Top Championship striker, Brazilian. He's on the bench, so he can't get in at the minute. So if, let's say, Emmanuel Dennis goes out, João Pedro comes in. Ismail Sarr is out at the minute, but they have depth. Sema, a Swedish international, can come in. Cuco Hernandez can come in, who's in at the minute. who's got 2 goals and 3 assists this season, by the way, off the bench. They've got Kabasele, who's played at the top level before. Tufan, a Turkish player who Leeds were apparently linked with in the summer. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is the depth of even teams in and around us is so much better than ours in terms of internationals, in terms of experience. It doesn't matter if you rate the players, but these are players in the dressing rooms who are leaders as well. Burnley rarely get injuries. Their back four is always consistent. You'll always see the Burnley team, there's 9 of them who are always playing every single game, barely get injuries. But then they've got Aaron Lennon coming off the bench. They've got Matej Vidra coming off the bench. And they've got Josh Brownhill coming off the bench. Just take that in. These are teams in and around us. Watford have got a good run in this Christmas period. They've got a decent run, as have Burnley. Burnley have got 2 games in hand on us at the minute. And they've got Watford tonight. I'm just trying to ring the realisation bell to a lot of people that Leeds are in a battle right now. The depth is not improving. Unless we do something in January, the depth is not improving because this is just going to be a consistent thing. Watford have 7 injuries out right now, but that's still their bench. Burnley have 4 injuries out now, but that's still their bench. Their top scorer is out, but they're still able to grind out results against the likes of West Ham who are in the top 4. They're still able to bring Matej Vidra on. Still able to bring the likes of, Josh Brownhill on, whatever. So, I apologise if this seems, massively negative, but this is a realistic chat right now, and I understand that beforehand I was talking about the positives of Leeds, how excellent we were, and we were excellent against Chelsea, but the inconsistency of Leeds this season is unbelievable, and I wasn't expecting us to go out against Manchester City and beat them, if I'm being realistic with you guys, but to lose 7-0, I've got friends who are Norwich fans, who when they went to Chelsea and got beat 7-0, they came out and said it was an absolute disgrace. They had 4 or 5 players out that game as well. There's no excuses for that. You can't lose 7-0 in the Premier League. It's not on. It's shocking. No excuses for that, everybody. You either look at the manager, who makes the game plan, who selects the team, and guess what? If we're all talking about players been injured, we should have done something in the summer about it, shouldn't we? Because we've been averaging 4 players out in 4 years. Every single game, per game. So you rectify that problem in the summer, don't you? So we can't keep going on about injuries because we've had the opportunity to solve this. So we've then got to now go solve it in January, haven't we, sorry. January is absolutely huge. And another caveat to put in this, so we're looking at this horrible scenario at the minute where there's 42 Premier League players who are in this COVID, having issues with COVID at the minute. What on earth happens if that's Leeds United? What on earth happens, God forbid it doesn't, if Ilan Meslier gets COVID? It's another position we don't talk about enough. If Ilan Meslier is injured at all this season, what are we going to do? Because from what we're hearing, it doesn't sound like Klaasen's ready at all. From what I've seen, it doesn't look like Klaasen's ready at all. For me, we need 5 players in January. 5. Another goalkeeper, which I think we should have got an experienced one. I understood why they went young, but I don't know if that one's worked at the minute. It'd be interesting to see what Mark Jackson says about Christopher Klaasen at the minute. We need another goalkeeper. That won't happen, but I think we do. I'm terrified of Ilan Meslier getting injured at some point this season, or COVID. I don't know what Leeds do then. We need a left back. We've got 0 cover. We're talking about Leo Kjelder being left back. We've never seen Leo Kjelder in the first team. We're doing this in the Premier League, my ad. We're experimenting in the Premier League. This would be a problem in League One, experimenting like this. Or Liam McCarran. We've seen Liam McCarran play left back. Or Stuart Dallas play left back. Once again, square pegs, round holes. And then we're exposed in the middle, so we need another left back for me. A central defensive midfielder. We have to get a central defensive midfielder. Once again, relying on Adam Forshaw to just hold that mantle for the next 4 or 5 months. It's completely unrealistic. And it's not right and it's not fair on him. Central attacking midfielder. We've never replaced Pablo Hernandez. We need one of them. And a striker. Because at the minute, there's no threat. There's no threat. And once again, if Rafinha gets injured. And I keep saying if these players get injured, guys, because everyone else is getting injured. There's a pattern, there's a trend. And when there's a trend and when there's a pattern, there's a likelihood that's going to happen again. I said at the start of the season, Calvin Phillips was going to get injured for a long period of time because it happens all the time. People slated me for that. And I said, and I still stand by this, Rafinha's going to be out for a period of time this season. He will be out for a period of time this season. Guarantee it. So then what? You have to make insurances in the Premier League. Listen, you guys, I'm sure you'll say I'm ultra negative, this, that, and the other. I'm trying to be as real as I can. Look, you know what I'm like at the minute. This isn't me flip-flopping. You guys have known I've said this at the start of the season. I said we're in the relegation battle. I said we're in a relegation battle from the start. You know, I've said that to you guys from the start. I've been transparent from the start. I've tried to be optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic. There is a way out of this, I think. But we have to act now. We have to act in January, or it's a sinking ship for me. And that's me being brutally honest with you. And that's not reflection. That's not reflective on the Man City game. It's not. This is a culmination of everything. Great at the weekend, fantastic. Still didn't get the win though. Still didn't even get a point. Individual mistakes again, and we've just had 7 goals put past us last night, and I'm still hearing fans say we move on. We've just lost 7-0. 7-0. It's a cricket score. Leeds have never lost 7-0 in the history, no matter how bad it's got. Went to Man City in the FA Cup when they put out a really strong side when it was the Centurions with Michael Brown and Tongi and Pewey and all that lot and Steve Morrison. We still owned the ship for that game, and they had Aguero, Yaya Toure, David Silva, Vincent Kompany playing. Okay? So come on. Leeds need to make moves. We have to make moves. In the window. We just do. I want an angry, reactionary performance against Arsenal. Arsenal are a bit up and down at the minute. We have 8 players out now, arguably first teamers. Yeah, I'm struggling, guys, to find positive. There's no positives, as Bielsa said after that. Things need to change. Like, comment and subscribe.